Welcome to the XFO Intelligence podcast. In a world that feels like it's accelerating every single day, are you constantly playing catch up or are you setting the pace? It seems like most people and organizations, they're just reacting to disruption. But then there are a select few who seem to see it coming. They don't just adapt to the future, they're actively, building it. Now, this isn't magic and it's not some lucky guess. It's a skill, a systematic capability we call the visionary advantage. And today, we're going to deconstruct that skill and show you how to develop it. So, what exactly is this art and science of future seeing? Forget the crystal balls. Think of it more as a disciplined process, a process for detecting those faint signals, recognizing emerging patterns, and acting with confidence while everyone else is paralyzed by uncertainty. The most successful leaders you see, they aren't just predicting the future, they are shaping it, all through the choices they make today. This whole visionary capability, it's built on three interconnected dimensions. First, it starts with you, the individual dimension. At its core, this is all about overcoming what psychologists call attentional blindness. We are all just wired to see what we expect to see, right? And we miss the extraordinary stuff that's right in front of us. Visionaries fight this. They practice what we call signal detection mastery. They actively expand their information diet to look for weak signals in unusual places. Maybe a niche customer behavior, a surprising tech convergence, or even a subtle cultural shift. Next, they develop pattern recognition excellence. They don't just collect signals, they connect them across totally different domains. The biggest insights, they often happen at these intersections, like when biology and computing gave us bioinformatics. And finally, they master temporal fluidity. That's the mental flexibility to jump between today's immediate problems, 5-year trends, and these decade-long shifts, seeing the opportunities that exist in the gaps. But no single person can see everything. Of course not. And that brings us to the second dimension, the organizational one. The smartest companies, they build what we call living Foresight networks. They create these structures that connect diverse people from all across the organization. The goal is optimal connection density, enough to share signals, but not so much that it just becomes noise. And diversity here is completely non-negotiable. I mean, if everyone on your team thinks alike, you have a massive, dangerous blind spot. Cognitive diversity is your strategic insurance against groupthink. And crucially, these organizations build feedback loops. They track their predictions against reality without blame, importantly, and they learn from what they missed, constantly calibrating their foresight system. Of course, seeing the future is useless if you don't act on it. And this is the third and I'd say most critical dimension, the strategic. Visionaries don't bet on a single perfect prediction. Instead, they practice scenario agility. They develop a portfolio of strategies that can work across multiple possible futures. They also establish early warning triggers. Now, these are predefined thresholds for action. For example, something like if 3 independent weak signals point to the same disruption, we immediately activate our response plan. This avoids that paralysis of waiting for certainty that, it never comes. And finally, they practice resource fluidity, deliberately reserving maybe 15 to 20% of their resources just to pivot quickly towards emerging opportunities, while their competitors are trapped in these rigid quarterly planning cycles. If you're finding this framework valuable for your own strategic thinking, maybe take a moment to subscribe to the XFO Intelligence podcast. We break down complex, future-focused ideas just like this in every single episode. And hey, if you know a leader or a team that would benefit from this, please share it with them. Okay, now let's zoom in on the most critical skill in this whole process, signal intelligence. In our age of just complete information overload, how do you find the meaningful signals in all the noise? Visionaries apply specific filters. The first is the causality filter.
They don't just chase trends, they dig deeper and they ask, what are the underlying forces driving this? Take the rise of remote work. On the surface, sure, it's about technology, but the root causes are actually deeper shifts in generational values, the challenges of urban density, and evolving definitions of productivity. By understanding the cause, you can anticipate the second and third order effects that others will miss. The second powerful filter is cross-scale integration. Truly transformative change, it often ignites when a small-scale signal, like a niche innovation, a mid-scale pattern, like an industry shift, and a massive macro force, like a civilizational change, all align. Visionaries are constantly scanning across these micro, meso, and macro levels, looking for that powerful convergence. But here's a fascinating paradox. The ultimate goal isn't perfect prediction. In fact, organizations that get too good at predicting one specific future, they often become fragile. They get trapped by their own success, become overconfident in their models, and they miss the truly disruptive, out-of-left-field changes. The most resilient organizations, they deliberately maintain what you might call intentional error. About 15 to 20% of their effort is spent exploring alternative scenarios that contradict what they believe is most likely. It's fascinating. So, how do you start building this in your own life or organization? Let's make it practical. In your first 90 days, just focus on the foundation. Map out the 5 to 7 domains most critical to your future. Create sensing posts, people or systems at the edges of your world where new things appear first. And start a simple ritual, a weekly 30-minute session where team members share just one unexpected observation from outside their normal work. Then, over the next few months, you develop the network. You deliberately create exchanges between teams that don't normally talk. You practice responding to extreme scenarios to build up your scenario muscles. And you build those all-important feedback loops. What did we get right? And more importantly, what did we miss and why? And finally, from month 10 onwards, you integrate it. Foresight becomes a required input for major strategic decisions. You formally allocate resources to both exploit your current business and explore future possibilities. And you schedule regular disruptions to your own system, bringing in outside views to just keep your thinking from getting stale. Of course, we have to talk about AI. Artificial intelligence is not a replacement for the visionary. It is a massive force multiplier. AI can monitor thousands of data streams at once, patent filings, academic papers, social media conversations, and it can surface subtle patterns a human could never see. It can run thousands of dynamic simulations, helping you find robust strategies that hold up across many possible futures. The winning formula is really an AI visionary partnership. AI handles the brute force data processing and monitoring, while we, the humans, provide the crucial sense-making, the ethical judgment, and the creative problem-solving. And this brings us to a final crucial point: responsibility. The ability to see what's coming, it creates an ethical obligation to shape it wisely. Your predictions can become self-fulfilling prophecies. The question has to evolve from what will happen to what future should we create. So becoming an architect of tomorrow, it isn't about having a crystal ball. It's about building a systematic capacity to navigate uncertainty with confidence. It's about cultivating the skills to see the seeds of change before they become obvious to everyone else, and having the courage to act on that insight. The future isn't something that just happens to you. It's something you build, starting today. Thank you for tuning in to the XFO Intelligence podcast. If this episode sparked new ideas or maybe challenged your thinking, please give us a like and share it with your network. It's honestly the best way to help us reach more people who are ready to shape what's next. And now here's a question we'd like you to think about until our next episode. What is one weak signal you've noticed recently in your industry, your community, or the world at large that challenges one of your core assumptions about the future? Think on that.